First off, as always, good day. Glad you're here. Um, First off, let me apologize for the way I sound. I'm not feeling very well, but still gonna do this video for you guys. Okay, so if there's something you can't understand, I do apologize. Uh, but if you have really any questions, come see me when you come to class, and I'll answer whatever you need. Okay, so let's start off with the warm up. So that's your picture. Um, First off, like always, what do you see? Okay, so look at the um, left to right, up and down. Look at the foreground, the background. Look at what things say. Okay, that's a keyword thing about this picture. Some of them are very easy to see. Some of them are kind of harder. Okay, but look around the picture and see if you can spot where things say this or that, what they represent. Uh, and then the second question is, oh, what do you think this artist is trying to say about this person with the hand? That's actually supposed to be a thumb, and I know it looks like a long index finger. So I guess it's supposed to be a thumb, but it looks like I said, it looks like an index finger, just like it's all long, So, um, sure. So, uh, what do you think this artist is trying to say about that particular person in that section? All right. So once you're done, be prepared for the notes, and they're going to start in three, two, one. All right. So here's the thing. Nativism. It's this idea that we, the people, we belong here, this and that, and other people really don't. You know, Basically, it swept through the country. Mainly, it was aimed at particular groups. They were like, oh no, we should take care of ourselves. But there were some immigrants that came over that a lot of Americans back then were fine with. But there was another group that they didn't really like. They felt they were a drag on society and things like that. Um, but mainly they were aiming at Asian, Jewish, and Eastern European people. Now, many nativist people felt that the old immigrants, the people who originally came over here, were perfect for America, and the rest of the people would bring down the American society and bring down our economy and bring down our infrastructure and our way of life and things like that. It's just pure baloney. All right, but this is the argument. So if you look down on the chart there, they felt that old immigrants, when it comes to wealth, money, that all those people were not all poor. Some of those people, they had money when they were coming over from Britain, France, stuff like that, to the United States. Whereas the new immigrants, the people coming from Asia, from the Middle East, things like that, that they were all of them were poor. And it's like, no, not all of them were poor. But again, to the people back then, no, they had to be poor. They're not sophisticated. They're not from this part of the world. They're from that part of the world. It's just okay. So when it came to education, they were like, oh, these people from Britain, France, they can read, they can write, they have some skill that they can bring to our country. And oh, these people are so great. And these other people, these Asians and these people from the Middle East and things like that, they can't read and they can't provide anything. They have no skills. Okay, thing is, you have to remember, in England, they spoke English. So coming to America, where it's predominantly English, duh, no wonder they can read. Ha ha ha. You know, but an Asian person or a person from the east side of Europe, where they don't really speak English, well, of course they're not going to know English when they come here. It's like, are you stupid or something? But that's the thing. Their mentality was like that. They're not one of us, it's one of them. Oh, so that's why, oh, they're a drag on society. It's like, well, no, they're not. You know, but again, you have to think like those people back then. Okay. That's the whole thing about this part. Um, when it comes to adjusting new cultures, they're like, oh, these people will adjust. Again, these British people have basically the same culture, same religion, same holidays as Americans. The people from Asia, Middle East, and Jewish people, they have different holidays. You know, not everyone celebrates Christmas. You know, not everyone has the same New Year's. For crying out loud, the Christian calendar and the Chinese calendar totally different. Their New Year's are different. But again, think like those people back then. One of the big ones was this: the countries from the old immigrants, they were democratic, whereas these other countries, they were not democratic. They had rulers, they had kings, they had emperors, things like that. Um, and one of the other really big ones was religion. These old immigrants came from Protestant and Christian countries, whereas these other ones were Catholic, Jewish, and Orthodox religions, and other ones, of course, Buddhism and things like that. Uh, so that was the big fight at this time. So here is your midpoint question, kind of, sort of midpoint. Do you think that the nativist people have an argument about old and new immigrants? Why or why not? Okay, so again, it's what you believe. Okay, um, so there's a writing prompt. I believe that nativists do have an argument because, and explain, or I believe that nativists don't have an argument and then go ahead and explain it. Okay, so that's what you're doing right now. Okay, uh, so be sure you write in complete sentences. Again, this is a large these questions are a large part of your grade. For these packets, the warm up and the questions are. So be sure you write complete sentences and be sure that they make sense. Okay. All right. So next we come to truly one of the like a stain in our country besides like slavery. This one was pretty bad. It's called the Chinese Exclusion Act. Straight up, right there, you already can tell what this bill or this act was about. Chinese exclusion, all right, of 1882, which basically barred Chinese immigrants from coming into our country for 10 years and basically prevented them from being citizens of our country. It sucked. So when basically these guys would come here, they would do their job, do their work, things like that. They couldn't vote because again they're not citizens, you know, and if they tried, they couldn't. They were rejected. Um, the Chinese people who were living here already protested, and they're like, okay, well, wait, let me get this straight. I've been here 20 years. Let's just say. I've been here since the gold rush, you know, and now you're saying my people are now can't be citizens. I have less rights and things like that. But these Germans, Italians, and Irish people who are coming over, they're fine. Why are you attacking our people but not theirs? You know, so they did make some noise, but the thing is, they were shunned. They were just pushed aside. They were seen as like lower than, again, it's a horrible, horrible state in our country, but that's what I was telling you guys in class. It's something that a lot of people don't know about, but I want you guys to know about this stuff. Okay, so they petitioned to the president and they filed lawsuits and things like that. They were not going down without a fight. Okay, and they fought, but it um, was for nothing. They fought hard, and cartoons like this one you see to the side that says, like the picture of the guy, his head alone, very racist, very demeaning picture of an Asian person. So you can see the tentacles around the side, cheap labor, immorality, smallpox, typhoid. They're basically blaming them for all the bad stuff in this country. saying it's their fault. Opium addiction, bribery, custom robbery. It's like, how can you blame one group for everything? You know, excuse me. So like bribery, how can you blame them? If a senator or congressman or mayor or whoever is basically sticking their hand out, you know, saying, give me this and I'll give you whatever, um, how is that their fault? You know, this person is basically telling them, pay me and I can make your life better. Well, of course they're going to do it, you know. Um, so how can that be their fault? You know, they didn't force a bag of money down someone's throat and say, give us this, you know. So again, think like those people back then, okay? So in 1892, it was renewed. After 10 years, they renewed it again. In 1902, what happened was instead of saying, oh, let's revisit this every 10 years, let's revisit this, they said, let's make it permanent. Let's make it permanent. So um, the Chinese population dwindled because people are like, well, what's the point of going to this country if we can't be a part of it? They'll use us for our labor. They'll use us for us to pay taxes, things like that. They'll treat us like crap, and we won't be able to be part of it. So it dropped, and this act was finally repealed, but not until 1943, in which time the Chinese were actually fighting the Japanese in World War II, who we were going against. So they were our allies. See how that worked? Until we needed them, then we finally said, okay, this act is bad. We should get rid of it. Things like that. Yeah, we will be getting back into this when we get to World War II. So just keep this in the back of your mind, right? All right. So many immigrants, they lived in cramped tenements, which are basically like big apartments. Not only big, like big in size, but big, like tall, wise, things like that. Like a bunch of little apartments in a building. um, the wealthy and middle class people, they basically saw that, oh my God, all these immigrants are moving into the cities. So they moved out to the suburbs type of area. You know, they moved out of the city and lived in the quiet area, had these neighborhoods built for them. Um, and also, they blamed the immigrants for the rise of crime. But the truth is, crime, the crime rate was basically the same. It wasn't that much higher than any other American town. Okay, uh, they were also blamed for different things. One, alcoholism. They said alcoholism because these immigrants. Oh, now we have alcoholism. It was already there before. Uh, Inadequate sewage disposal. That wasn't the immigrants' fault. That was the city planning people. That was their fault. Bad drinking water. Again, immigrants. It's not like they purposely dump stuff in the water. You know, if like we were talking about before, if an apartment had no restrooms, they either had an outhouse or they did their business in a bucket and tossed it over, uh, which led to epidemic diseases, typhoid, malaria, fever, things like that. And all that stuff happened in big cities, but also happened in other towns as well. Okay, but in the city, you just heard about that all the time. So there was a new political machine that noticed, you know what? We could use these people's anger to our advantage, and we could get what we want from these people based just off their anger of what's going on in their life. So basically, this new political machine, these people, basically promise better jobs, better housing, um, heat in their apartments, uh, and police protection in exchange for their votes. You know, uh, and the thing is, the urban, which is another word for like city people, uh, the immigrant groups basically voted in large numbers. They're like, yeah, we like what this person's saying, you know. So these urban people, again, immigrants from large cities, these minorities, things like that. Um, they said, "What have we got to lose? This person promised they'll do it. Let's vote for them." Nobody else is saying this stuff, so let's see what happens. If they do it, they do it. That's cool. But if not, well, it's only for 2 to 6 years, right? We've been living like this for so long, and that is a picture from this time era. I want to say that was 19 or 1895, something like that. But yeah, you can see how the neighborhoods were when they washed their clothes and stuck them out there to dry. So the thing is, these guys basically got what they wanted, and they gave the people what they wanted. So these political machine guys became known as bosses. And many of these bosses owned or controlled, should say, the city finances. And when you give people, especially politicians, access to cities' monies, they're going to take advantage. And that's exactly what happened. They committed fraud like crazy. Uh, they got bribes from contractors to do a building, you know, to work on the streets and sewage and things like that. Uh, Basically, how it works is like this. Let's say there's a job that needs to be done, right? This still happens to this day, believe it or not. There's a job that needs to be done in the city. Let's say a building. You're going to put a hospital, say hospital there. What happens is the city will say we are going to get contractors, you know, and they'll say there's 10 companies. What they'll say is who is going to charge us the least? Okay, who's going to charge us the least? And what a lot of these businesses do is they try to say, "Oh, I can do it for $1 million." Another one will say, "I can do it for 1.5 million." Another one will say, "I'll do it for $750,000." So it's less than a million. Usually, most cities go for that person. But what happens is this $1 million company or the $1.5 million company may offer these bosses a bribe of like $500,000. To give me the job, I'll give you like $500,000 or whatever it is. So they get the job. These bosses will give them the job, even though someone else said we'll do it for less. They give it to these guys because these guys gave them money. It's not costing the bosses any money. They're getting money from these guys under the table, and these guys get the contract, so they're going to get their $1 million. You know. Other things they did was they gave their friends jobs. You know, people who were not really qualified for the jobs. People were just like, "Hey, that's my buddy Ted. I owe him a favor. Here, you run the gas and electric company, stuff here in the city." They put him in charge of the railroads. When the trains are coming, things like that. Um, the waterworks, things like that, and power. These guys were not qualified. They didn't know anything about it. It's just, hey, that's my buddy. He needs a job. You know, put him there. So it really hurt the city. All right, sorry about that. And to clean my nose for a little bit. Uh, Now, one of the biggest bosses, notorious bosses, his name was it was the Tammany Halls. That was the name of the place. His name was William M. Boss Tweed. Tweed is a name that is known for corruption and just like hardcore, like took advantage of people. Okay, that's his picture right there, to your right. Now he ran the New York Democratic political machine from 1860 to 1870s, and then he went to jail in 1874, right? Uh, because of his corruption, things like that. They finally caught up to him. In Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, the Pendergast brothers basically went through the state and city politics from the 1890s to the 1930s. They ran the whole place, right? They were another one of the political bosses. Now, some people felt that the political machines and the bosses were corrupt. You know, even though they did give the people what they wanted, which was, clear up the diseases, have better sewage, you know, um, better living, homes, things like that. Uh, Others argue that the city and state governments weren't meeting the needs of the people. That the government before them just focused on, the upper class people and, just them. Whereas these bosses, they knew to keep the lower class people, which was a lot more of them, keep them happy, give them what they need. But when they got what they needed, make some money on the side, you know, give your friends some jobs and things like that. So it's like, what do you think? Type of thing. Which comes to our question, based off what you've learned and everything we talked about, things like that. Do you think that political machines and the bosses were a good thing or a bad thing? And justify your answer. Give evidence. Okay, so things we've talked about. So there's your writing prompt on the bottom. I believe that political machines and bosses were good, bad, somewhere between, because, and explain. Explain your answer. Okay, guys, don't forget, this is a large part of your grade right here on these questions. So be sure you write um, incomplete sentences. Don't put cause and then, start writing some stuff off the wall. No, 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 no. Really think about it. Tell me what you think and write that down. All right, so that's the end of this lesson. Hopefully, you learned something new. Don't forget, put your name on your paper. Okay. Um, the period, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. All right. And that's it. All right. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a good day. All right. So, take care. Be safe.